Hi everybody, welcome back to T Loves to Read Book Vlog. I'm back here again with James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, and I'm in chapter 2 and I'm reading a different section. I'm going to pick up where I left off in my last video, but I have to be honest, this section and this book in general has me feeling a bit triggered. Just a reminder that a lot of racial issues are still happening today, especially in light of the event yesterday with the storming of the Capitol. It makes it clear that white privilege does exist and that there's a double standard of how black and white people are treated in the country when they protest. So I did want to finish reading this book and just focus on the whole book, but I decided to just wait and do the book some justice and focus on the sections, even though I was feeling triggered by the events. So let's go ahead and jump into what I feel about James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, in chapter 2, this second section. So I've noticed that James is having a lot of different battles going on in his personal life at home, in his church, and with religion. He mentions that he has an interaction with his father where he brings a friend home and his friend is Jewish. And James mentions he's not used to hanging out with Jewish people. The Jewish people he is familiar with are from the Bible and the Old Testament. So when he found or was exposed to Jewish people in his school, he quickly befriended one of them and he invited him to his home. And after his friend left, the Jewish friend left, James' father asked James, was his friend a Christian? And basically, what he was trying to ask was James' friend saved. James said, no, my friend is Jewish. And his father reacted by slapping him in the face. James described it as being slammed. And he was very irritated with his father and felt like all the feelings of hatred he had tried to suppress all came flooding forward, and he felt he would rather kill his father before his father killed him. And this concerned James because he mentioned he had been going to church. He was preaching and praying, hearing all the sermons, crying, and his exposure to the church did not keep him from feeling the way he felt toward his father as far as wanting to kill him. He felt like this was a inner battle that church didn't prepare him for, his religion didn't prepare him for. So he was just nervous about, I guess, his soul going forward. He also felt like this battle with his father was a relief from the battle he was facing within his congregation at church. He was one of the young ministers there, and he knew how the ministers and he preached to the congregation so much, and I guess they really worked the church, that the church members were giving all of their money to the church. And this discouraged James because he knew his congregation members were financially unstable, they were poor. And he knew that the ministers were taking the money, and he knew what was happening with that money. He knew the ministers were purchasing homes and Cadillacs, and the congregation members were poor. This disturbed James a lot. He felt like he would lose respect for himself if he continued on that path with the church, and he was losing respect for the ministers. So he was trying to decide what to do. Should he keep preaching or should he just stop and walk away? James also mentioned that he had issues with Christianity overall. He knew over the years that Christianity had been changed and manipulated to fit the human purpose. He was tired of the different changes and tired of, I guess, being taught that, you are to be saved, that God is love. But he was confused because he was being taught, I guess, by one of the church members, a male figure, that if he ever encounters a white woman standing, he should never give up his seat for her because white men did not do that for black women. And he understood what the male church member was saying, but he just didn't understand. He's saying, if I'm supposed to be saved and loved everybody, how can I not give up my seat for a white woman, even if she is white? He was just torn, conflicted by the teachings, and felt like there were too many self-serving changes to Christianity. He wished Christianity would be restored to what it was in the beginning before it was tainted and changed. So that was a big battle for James. He also mentioned he had an encounter where he was listening to a speech by Elijah Muhammad, and how he was familiar with Islam. And he had heard their speeches before, but he never really paid attention. And he was at one particular speech, and he actually started to pay attention because he looked around and he noticed how the police were reacting at that particular speech. He said they were very, they seemed scared and they were in line. They weren't challenging or battling any of the people in the crowd, the black people in the crowd. They were just standing by and just observing. So that made him pay attention because he was used to black people being, I guess, subdued and attacked, and especially with his own personal experience when he was 10, how he was frisked and searched by officers. He's sensed a different vibe from them this time. They were kind of just in line and observing and not reacting with the crowd and not being their normal selves, but they were exerting power and force. So that made him look around. But then he also felt like the Islamic religion was holding black people to a different standard and uplifting them, making the women virtuous and the men chaste. And he was just trying to figure out, how did Islam and Elijah Muhammad make this possible for black people and Christianity couldn't? He was just amazed by how the black people all saw, I guess, felt joy and saw their faces, and how he just see the power going through the crowd of black people, and the power was not with the white people at that time. So he just started to pay attention. So James just had a lot going on, I guess, being in high school and trying to figure out, his family life, church, religion. He had a lot of different battles happening. He also talked about in the speech with Islam and how he was captivated by their talk. I'm not sure if James enlisted in the army, but he mentioned how black soldiers were going to fight in foreign countries and they were treated better in the foreign countries than they were at home. And he said that the white soldiers were calling them the N-word and that they were separated still from the white soldiers. They couldn't attend the same parties, go to the same bars. And he said he was being disturbed by the fact that the signs separating black and white from each other, like, for example, white ladies for the restroom and colored women. I guess these different terms and all these things swirling around during that time were really starting to bother James, and it would just all coming to a head with him trying to figure himself out and figure out where he was going. So with this section, I thought it was very deep, as the whole book is deep, but this section I felt like I had to read a few times to really digest and figure out how to approach it in this video. Hopefully I did it some justice. I think, again, I keep saying this pretty much in every video, I think this is a book that one needs to read for themselves to really take it all in and digest, because my words are not going to, I guess, give you the same feeling. But definitely, if you can, I think read any of the books I suggest, but I definitely think picking up James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, is definitely recommended. It may make you feel triggered, because it made me feel triggered, but it does start the conversation of what do we need to do in America to make a change for Black Americans, because I don't know if you guys are tired, but I am. These talks and conversations and speeches are starting to get on my nerves. I want to see action. So hopefully in 2021, we'll see some action, some positive action towards change. If you have any thoughts or questions, anything you want to provide to me, you can email me about the video, or I'm sorry, about this video, to ShaunaWatson4@gmail.com. I'll have the info in the bio, so you can email me. I also have a T Loves to Read email. I'll have that in there as well. So reach out to me if you have any questions. If you can, please read and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.